That whole thing right there, that whole thing lasted 6 hours. When I tell you it was watching paint dry, it was watching paint dry. Marvel doesn't seem to have a whole lot leading into this. Captain America just limped over $400 million. Does anybody think, can Thunderbolts beat that? They've got another dud on their hands. Renegade Online. I don't know if y'all saw this. Yeah. Everybody was kind of reposting this. A 6-hour live stream from Marvel Studios. And what you're about to see is the 1 minute and 43-second version. They introduced, here's the new cast, as principal photography is about to commence for the next Avengers film, Doomsday. For the life of me, I'm having trouble envisioning that this movie is going to come out next summer. They are just now about to start principal photography. Mm-hmm. That is not a long timeline for a movie of this scale to complete, especially with all the post-production. I'm a little concerned with this, but there's no real music of note to this, but let me mute it so it's not in my ear. It's just showing the cast. Chris Hemsworth's coming back. Vanessa Kirby, who's in Fantastic Four. Anthony Mackie, Captain Falcon. There's 20 chairs, okay? And what I want you to appreciate is this scroll across the names right now. Letitia Wright, who was Girl Black Panther in Wakanda Forever, who's still got probably 4,000 toys sitting on the shelves of Ollie's nobody's buying. This took 6 hours to do. This was a slow pan of these chairs it was 6 hours. Go look it up on the Marvel page. This is what they did, this slow reveal. So we're all so glad Shang-Chi came back.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
The whole thing. I did because I had to tweet it out from G&G Twitter. So if you guys follow Geeks and Gamers over on Twitter, yeah, I was waiting for the next chair to be revealed all day. Thankfully, though, I was watching the Nooner, so I was.
I think the big thing here, you got Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen back as Xavier and Magneto from the OG X-Men, not the new ones. James Marsden coming back from some of the older ones. Channing Tatum coming back as Gambit, which is great. Pedro Pascal and then, of course, Robert Downey Jr. Surprise, he's back. We already knew that one. That whole thing right there, that whole thing lasted 6 hours, and that's how they did it. When I tell you it was watching paint dry, it was watching paint dry.
Can we point out who, unfortunately for all of us, our channels, who is not mentioned there?
Brie Larson.
Yeah, there you go.
Who else is not mentioned there? Tom Holland.
Yes, that's true.
Tom Holland's name did not appear in this. So either one of two things is happening. Either this is another Marvel psych out where he's going to be in the movie as Spider-Man, which you would think he would have to be. I mean, how they would make this fit up. Or number two, they have an issue because, we talked about this a few days ago. The Russo brothers who were back making this movie, the same guys who made Infinity War and Endgame 5-6 years ago, they're still using the playing cards where, they have 2 Tom Holland cards, 2 Robert Downey Jr. cards, 5 Anthony Mackie cards. So they know how many movies that they have options left for these actors to get their characters in. So they have to structure the whole phase based on, well, we've only got, we've got Tom Holland for one movie, for example. And I don't know if that's correct or not. I'm just as an example. But if Tom Holland's available for one movie, they're not going to put him in Doomsday. Maybe they want to put him in the next one, the Secret Wars or whatever. There's another Avengers movie coming out the next year. So, but I found it curious that Tom Holland's name was not mentioned in there. So I guess no Spider-Man. If that's true, that's going to hurt the box office. Marvel doesn't seem to have a whole lot leading into this. We're coming off of Captain Falcon that just bombed in theaters. Snow White's bombing in theaters. The next thing up for Marvel is the Thunderbolts, which a lot of the cast members were names on those chairs, to which nobody recognized except maybe Sebastian Stan. Some people may know who David Harbour is because of Stranger Things, but they don't really know the character that he plays in Marvel. It's a lot of snooze in this thing. I mean, what did y'all think?
I had to look up
the chair video.
For the chair video, yeah. What are your thoughts on the chairs?
The chairs and the names on the back of them. Is anybody excited for this? I'm genuinely curious.
But I also, I'd be interested in the other ladies here's comments. I'm also to the point that almost nothing they can do does excite me.
Yeah, long gone are the days that Marvel Avengers movies excited me.
That makes me sad too, because remember you didn't even have to see a trailer and you'd be like, this movie's coming out, and you'd be excited because you just knew it was going to be good, and now it's like, oh, another Marvel movie.
Well, yeah, I think Disney Plus really ruined it for a lot of people, myself included. Like it really did ruin it for me because just I didn't want to keep up with all of those shows. It was just way too much time. I sort of like cherry picked what I wanted to see based on the characters that I like, and that was it. I just recently I watched WandaVision for some movie that I went and saw, and I can't even remember what movie it was, but like just recently I watched, or maybe it was for a show. It was for Agatha All Along. That's what it was for.
Oh,
because I was keeping up with Agatha all along for YouTube. So I watched WandaVision before Agatha came out, and like I felt like my time was wasted. So like it was just Disney Plus really ruined Marvel with putting all of their shows there, and having people invest so much time into just either mid or low tier quality, content. And then saying like, oh, but you have to know this in order to go and see this movie. And it's just like, I really don't want to. I don't want to, especially like with Thunderbolts, with all of those characters. I'm not going to watch any of the previous shows that they were in. I probably won't go watch Thunderbolts, but like.
You would have to watch Black Widow for that one. I mean, a lot of those, like David Harbour character, and I think one of the other ones in there was from that Black Widow movie that was Florence Pugh's character was in that. That's right. But that's a movie that came out in the summer of 21. That was the first thing Disney put back into theaters and did that simultaneous $30 release on Disney Plus, day and date with the theatrical drop.
Isn't one of them like a Captain America character from Falcon show?
That's Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell. That one. Kurt Russell's son played the bad Captain America version in the TV show that also very few people watched. So that's what I'm saying is like as you, and I realize they built towards the end, and to me it's kind of, you had Chris Hemsworth first. I don't know what, put him towards the end, put him next to RDJ. Is anybody really excited about Pedro Pascal? I mean, he was second chair behind RDJ in that lineup, as being like the big he's playing Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four.
They should have got John Krasinski back again.
Oh, absolutely. That would have been good. I guarantee you, Pedro Pascal was like the second before last because of all of his stands over on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. So they could like get it trending or something and be really excited because he does have a huge amount of fans on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. Like his fan base is insane, which is probably why they saved him for second to last. It felt anticlimactic to end it with Pedro Pascal and then Robert Downey Jr., especially since we already knew he was going to be in it.
Right.
So
they already did the big reveal.
Yeah. So I was waiting for someone else, but no, it was just him.
Like I said, my concern from the business side of things is taking out my complete apathy for what's happened with the MCU since 2019. Just from a business standpoint, I'm not the only one that has the apathy, and it's very self-evident for all the reasons you just brought up. You look at the performance. Daredevil right now was one of, especially when you do, let's call it a subscriber inflation adjustment for Netflix. When Daredevil was on Netflix 5-6 years ago, whenever that was, maybe even 7 years ago now, it's probably at least 7 years. Point being, at that point, Netflix had far fewer subscribers than they do today. It's one of the biggest shows they ever had. Fast forward, and now Daredevil, matter of fact, I'll pull it up because I had the Luminate charts on this one this week, and we're gonna swing into Snow White because there's a lot to talk about with this one, with these new stories. It is nuts. Y'all are gonna have fun with this one. But let me pull up these Luminate charts. I still have the one from March 6th through 13th, just to kind of show Daredevil Born Again. This is the second week of the show when the third episode dropped. It finally barely eked into the top 10 of Luminate. That was with 3 episodes out. And then the following week, guess what? It fell out again. It disappeared. So in other words, this was a show that Disney, remember, Disney had to wait to get these back. There were rumors that Disney had paid some degree, and there were various rumors on this, of an early termination fee to Netflix, basically buying the contract out a bit early so they could get those Marvel characters back, the rights to them back from Netflix. Now, whether or not that was actually panned out, I've seen stories that suggested the contrary, that the contract just naturally expired and Disney got them back. But either way, Disney was waiting to get them back. They made this whole new show, And it's barely charting, and it's gone this week. It may show up when next week's chart comes out, which would be from this week, because this week we went back to a 2-episode drop with nearly 2 hours of content. All the other shows on here that are episodic, like 1923, the Taylor Sheridan show connected to Yellowstone, Reacher, trying to think of what else on here. I think, Severance, definitely. That's the first time I've seen Severance on the list, but Apple TV is a totally different animal. Here's the thing.
It was the finale as well.
It was, yes, and I watched it, which it was good, but the thing is that that's the point. You got to wait for season 3 a year from now, Stephanie, just like I do. They're all episodic. These are all basically 1923 is a 1-hour episode. Severance was about a 1-hour episode. Reacher, I'm not entirely sure, but I imagine is about a 1-hour episode. They're dropping 2 hours. They're dropping 2 episodes, nearly 2 hours of shows on Disney Plus each week, just to try to give the impression that they're far more competitive in terms of viewership than they are. It's that Disney facade. Everything's fine. Everything's great. It's really not. And that's kind of the problem. Now, I don't think they spent on Daredevil what they spent on a lot of other programs that they put on there, but just to give you an idea, this is the state of Marvel right now. And if you've got no audience for Captain America 4. Let me ask y'all this. Captain America 4. Captain America, regardless of the race swap, and they did the thing with Anthony Mackie and brought him in instead of Bucky, blah, blah, blah. It's still Captain America in the title. It's still a headline Marvel character. Captain America just limped over $400 million. Does anybody think, and I'm asking this genuinely, because I don't know, can Thunderbolts beat that?
It could be a sleeper, depending on how entertaining it is. Word of mouth would have to carry.
Yes,
they've got another dud on their hands. I don't know what the cost is for Thunderbolts. I haven't seen anything yet, but if I can just play the odds like every other Disney production, especially Marvel, we're looking at least around 200 million, no question. I mean, I haven't seen one yet that hasn't been at least that much. I mean, that's where my brain is right now, 200 million. And so, I mean, even if they just spend $100 million on marketing, the film needs to get to $600 million in the retail box office globally, just on average, to break even and to get out of the hole. Because again, there's no life for Disney films after theatrical. It goes on Disney Plus. They pay themselves with their own money to license it to themselves. So I don't know. Is anybody interested in any of the characters in Thunderbolts, you guys?
I will say this, Thunderbolts, like the trailer has looked more fun to me than like most things Marvel. So like, it's kind of like Steph said, like if say like Chris Gore and them, you know, cause they get to see it before all of us, if they came out and were like, guys, it's actually a lot of fun. Like if I had nothing else to do that weekend, I very well could go see it just cause let's just be real. If you're someone like me who likes going to the theater, it's been really barren in 2025. I mean, there's been nothing.
I mean, the last throwaway Marvel I went to see was Thor Ragnarok, where people were like, "No, I promise, it's a lot of fun. You'll have a good time," and I actually did. Like,
that one. I thought you were talking about the last one. Yeah, that Ragnarok.
Oh, Love and Thunder.
No, Ragnarok's great. It's kind of one of those like take your brain out, throw it in the trash, just go have a good time. And I think that Marvel, if they focused more on that for their summer blockbusters, having a good time rather than supporting a particular message or trying to stick to the script and stick to the formula that they've been operating off of since Iron Man, I think that they would have a lot more success.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.